Uh, Welcome to the final day of Dataverse Summit event. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on your location. My topic for the session is Scaffold Power Ups project using Capgemini project generator. Power Ups project generator. This is developed by Capgemini and it is available publicly for everyone use. Actually, it's a interesting project, interesting tool, you can say, and you can use on every Power Apps and Dynamics project. So we'll see a live demo and how you can consume this generator and how this is going to help in your day-to-day project, in small project, enterprise project. So everywhere there will be some help you will get from this generator. So quick introduction about myself. My name is Satya Kar. I'm a Dynamics 365 and Power Platform evangelist. I work at Capgemini UK as a senior software engineer. I have 10 plus years of working experience in Dynamics 365 CE side and in the recent last 2 years Power Platform and Dynamics as well. I'm a Microsoft certified professional and certified Scrum Master. My social media handles are on the screen. You can connect me on LinkedIn, Twitter, and my GitHub account is also displayed on the screen. So let's move on into the agenda for today's session. So we are going to have an overview of the generator. What are the components available for the generator and how you can consume it, and what are the benefits you get from this generator, and the prerequisites we'll discuss, and it's important that how you can start with this, how you can consume this, that is also important. Then based on the time we will have a live demo to run this tool to see how the generator creates a scaffold the projects, and the other necessary sub generator, how it is going to useful for you, and finally we will have a Q&A. So let's move on. Power Apps project generator, right? So when you start any Dynamics or Power Platform project, what are the things you need to set up? And what are the things you need? You need a Power Platform environment where you will be doing your customization and configurations. And in order to bring those changes into your source control, you have to set up your code structure and you need CI/CD pipelines in order to move your customization from across your environment. I'm not going to explicitly mention about the best practices for the ALM, but the generator is being built with a mind that all the best practices for ALM being used. Um, and also you need a Visual Studio solution, right? And projects where you will be putting your initial code, and then the other team members, the developers, will start putting their code into that and put into your source control, right? So Azure DevOps is mainly used for this one. So starting a new project always require planning and time to set up your repository. You have to set up the build release pipelines, and also it's important to follow a consistent way of working across the multiple project. So you as a company, you have different project, and every project when you are starting, you have to repeat that same steps. You have to set up your initial code structure. You have to set up your pipelines in Azure DevOps and the necessary configurations as per your project needs, right? And this is where Capgemini Power Apps project generator is helpful to set up the Power Apps project for you, and where you can start building in very quick time. We'll see that in a live demo. Right. So in my screen, if you see the main generator, which is the Power Apps Power Apps project. Uh, Capgemini Power Apps project generator is a command line tool, and it's built using Yeoman. Uh, Yeoman is a NPM package used for scaffolding a new project, and it's a plugin that can be run with Yo command. When you run the Yo command, it will prompt you various questions related to your project, the client, the package, what you want to build, And when you are going to run the subgenerator and connecting to Azure DevOps, it will ask you your PAT token for connecting to your DevOps and what project you want to use. So various other things we'll see on the live demo. What are the different prompts it asks for? Uh, Right. So the main generator I was talking about. So this is built using the Yeoman, and this generator package contains one main generator and multiple sub generator. So the main generator, the PowerUps project that is used to scaffold a new project, and this will produce your IDE configurations files if you are using Visual Studio Code or Visual Studio. So it will give the initial configuration files and it will give the initial code structure, such as it will create a C# project for you to start your plugin development if you have any plugin to write in your project. It will create C# project to support the testing, unit testing, integration testing, and UI testing. If you have to do all these projects will created by the scaffolding itself. And it also supports another project to use the package deployment. So Microsoft Package Deployer, which is out of box, on top of that, it will create a project and it will use that so that you can, use the package deployer for deploying more than one solutions, and not just solution. It is the whole package from across your environment. OK, so it will create that project. And along with that, the scaffold also gives you the Azure DevOps YAML pipeline scripts. So the build pipeline scripts, what you will be setting up in the Azure DevOps repository. So it will provide those scripts as well. So this is the main generator. So going into the subgenerator, the Azure DevOps is the first subgenerator, and this subgenerator used to scaffold an Azure DevOps project, and this is going to produce the repository. It is going to create a service connection directly on the Azure DevOps, because when you are going to run the CD, your pipeline, in order to move your code into another environment, you need to connect to the Dataverse. So we need a service connection, and this subgenerator is also going to create a service connection automatically for you. It is going to set up the build and release pipeline, and if any library groups are required, it will set them up. Then you can basically add more parameters or change the parameter when needed. It also checks if so as part of the build and release pipeline, we are using these Power Platform build tools. So it will check if the Power Platform build tools are already installed. It will skip the process. If not installed, it will install the Power Platform build tools and the Sarif viewer for the solution checker as well. So it tries to cover all the best practices, what generally you would like to follow as part of your build and release pipeline. So the next subgenerator is a solution. So this subgenerator is kindly depending on this past main generator and the Azure DevOps, because anytime you start a project, you have a code structure, Visual Studio solution, where you will be, putting all your code. But you need a container in your Dataverse where you will be, creating all the components. Table, whatever component, the solution components. So you need basically a structure in order to extract those solution component into your source control. So this subgenerator, solution subgenerator, is going to create the code structure and the necessary configurations file, and which will help you to extract the changes from your Dataverse to your local machine, which you can push through to the Azure DevOps. And the other subgenerator are kind of optional. It depends on your project need. If you have requirement of writing plugin assemblies, then you can run this plugin assembly subgenerator. This is going to create another C# project where you can start writing your plugin code and the custom workflow activities. Similarly, the scripts, if you have any requirement of writing scripting for any of the Dataverse business rules for any of the tables, so you can run this subgenerator, which is going to create the necessary configurations, and you can easily write a TypeScript which will convert to JavaScript, right? And also it gives you kind of a build task where you can deploy the code into your Dataverse from your local machine. And finally, I'll talk about the data. So every project must have some of the configuration data which you want to maintain across your environment. It could be a pre-configuration data or could be post-configuration data. Few of the example, let's say you have a subject tree and you are supporting a help desk where you have various subjects, right? And you want to, based on the subject, there are certain rules, and you want to maintain those subjects GUID across your environment. And there are many other scenarios. You have a queues, you have teams, and you want to maintain across your environment. That time, you can use this data sub generator. This is going to create the export import config file and the schema file. And one more additional Capgemini tool is been used to support this sub generator, that is called CDS data migrator. It's maybe another topic to discuss more about it, but I'll if I have a time, I'll show you a little bit about it. Okay, so let's move on. And just one more thing to highlight here: in order to consume or use this Azure DevOps subgenerator, the user who will be running this command have to be a Azure DevOps project admin, because it is going to set up all these pipelines, service connection, etc. Right? And the Power Apps project, the main generator, you can install in a machine. It's a one-time activity. Someone, maybe your build engineer or maybe your team lead or whoever is going to set up the project, they can start initially do from a build machine or from their local machine. But once it is set up and the initial code is moved into your Azure DevOps, the team members can clone the project and start contributing to that. So what are the benefits you get from this generator? So every project it need for the initial setup, somebody have to set up the repos, pipeline, code structure, etc. Right, which is always a manual activity, and also it's time consuming. And the aim is also to follow the common process and practice to develop, build, and test Power Apps project across your project. And this is where, if you are going with a manual approach, you have to set up a documentation and which everyone have to follow whenever they start a new project, right? And this is where it eliminates the Power Apps project generator would eliminate that documentation, because you just run few commands, it gives you the structure, so you are ready to start. Uh, from the word go. Yeah. And also it make the local development easier. The generator configure various tasks using the nuke build. As part of this, we are using a nuke build, which is another cross-platform build automation solution. And it will ask various Visual Studio Code tasks in order to extract solutions from your Dataverse and deploy code to in terms of plugin code scripting into your Dataverse. So we are using Scott Durer's Sparkle framework as well, the Sparkle EXE, in order to deploy plugins, web resource, and the other component as well. Right. So the consistency, use the same code structure across project, use the standard set of workflows in your ALM process, uh, and having a common way of working. So this is very much important, so that if you have a bigger team and your team members are moving across your project, if they are familiar with a specific code structure, how to use it and how to take it forward, how to do the PR and do the appropriate review. So the consistency is more important here. And finally, the standardization. The Capgemini generator, it generates the repos, comes pre-installed with other Capgemini tooling, such as Power Apps package deployer. Power Apps package deployer is another extension on top of Microsoft package deployer. Uh, so it has various services in it. So Microsoft Power Apps package deployer, you can define your import config file with more than one solution and what order you want to install, and you can also combine your reference data. But addition to that, if your solution has any flows, so you can set up the flow connection reference. So the Capgemini Power Apps package deployer can set the connection reference, then it can activate. And generally, if your solution has any SLAs, you cannot import a solution if the SLAs are active. So as part of this package deployer, it first checks if your solution has any SLAs, it will deactivate them. Then finally, again, it will import the solution and reactivate it. So it has some various other useful services available. That's another topic. Again, I said the Power Apps spec flow binding. This is built again on top of the EG Repro. If you want to use automated UI testing then this would help you, to start writing your bindings in order to do the UI testing. And the CDS data migrator I mentioned about, where if you have to migrate data across your environment. And what are the prerequisites to consume this generator? The Node.js, this is a JavaScript runtime which you have to install. The Yeoman, I said, this is npm package to Scaffold project, that also you have to install globally. And Power Platform CLI, which already you guys familiar, that it empowers developer to perform various operations. We are using all the pack command for pack, unpack, and various other the build and release task. And Azure DevOps, where you will be putting your source control, automated build testing, and your release management. And finally, the VS Code and Visual Studio 2017 or later. So why both? If you have any project which are built using .NET framework, you will be using Visual Studio. And anything other than that, everything you can do using the VS Code itself. So how to get started? So if you have Node installed, then very first thing you can install Yeoman, and you can see to install Yeoman, it is npm install, and yo is the command. You can install globally by putting this command, and followed by the Capgemini Powerhouse project generator, npm install, and the Capgemini UK is the scope, and the generator name is generator Powerhouse project. This is where you can start consuming this generator. Right, so now it is time for the demo, live demo. So I have already created the generator, installed the generator, but I'll be starting from the main generator, which will create, your ID configuration files, and we'll start from there. Let me open the Visual Studio Code. So you see, this is a blank folder now. We are going to run various commands in a sequence, and we'll step one by one as I explained about the main generator and the sub generator. And before I start, I'll show you the Azure DevOps project which I'm going to use today. You see, this is the generator demo project I just created yesterday, and it is a complete, just a blank project. There is nothing else. You go to the repos. There is no repository, a single repository, and nothing is available here. There is no pipelines. It's a blank, no release pipelines. And the service connection I talk about, which we are going to use for connecting to Dataverse. So everything is basically blank. So before it comes to the subgenerator Azure DevOps, but first, as I said, we have to use the main generator to create the project. So the very first command, as I said, already the project is installed in my local machine. So that means the npm package is available in my local machine to generate those main generator and the subgenerator. So the very first subgenerator is the project. So I'll be putting yo, and Capgemini UK Powerhouse project is the command. So when I run this, it is asking for the name of the client. So every project you would have a client for whom you will be working, and what would be the project. And the good thing is this remembers your previous entry as well. If I want to use the same, I can just enter, or I can type a new client name. So I'll be using same. So Power Community as a short form, and name of the package. Yeah, let's use the same LM Lab. Here you go. It's created all these boilerplate source code in order to start your project. So let's have a quick look at what it produced. It produced so in order to write your business logic for plugin development and custom workflow activity, we have separated out into the business logic repository and the model layer. And the business logic model and repository are a shared project which is used by the container library. And when you will be creating any plugin, directly you will be using this container in order to consume the logic on the business logic. And the other benefits of separating these business logic is, as Raj was mentioning in the starting of the call, unit testing, right? It is very much important that every project you must have a unit testing. So to support the unit testing, you do not have to, write your unit test against the plugin class itself, but you can write, of course, the unit testing on the business rules, or business logic, what you have written in this layer. So this is where we created this various project. And if you just look into this project, we also given kind of a template type of code where you can consume them. If you see, we have CRM repository, which is by a generic ICRM repository for connecting to Dataverse and doing multiple operations. Let's say you have to do a retrieve query, you have to update, you have to find, so you can use all your Lambda expression to give your selector query what you want to filter, what fields, and you can pass your expression. This is going to return the results. So it has various stuffs. Okay. So we'll go later, but let's move on for now. Just a heads up that these are the projects it provides. And so this is the repository, the business logic, where you can start writing your business logic. And it has a repository factory, which you can instantiate in your plugin project in order to use the repository pattern. And we prefer always to go with the early bound model of writing code. So due to which we have a model project here, and in this model you can generate your wrapper of the CRM tables, so that directly you will get your all your table and column in order to write the code. Okay, so these are the projects being created. And apart from that, if you see, there is a test folder, and under the test it has a various testing project. It has unit test project, and it has UI testing, and it has integration testing. So UI testing, again, you can use your mock or fake XRM AG. Again, this gives you the initial structure, then how you want to use, you can extend always, but we give you a initial kind of a best possible components, including the project. So I was mentioning about the power up spec flow binding. So UI test, if you look into this one of the class files, which is this yeah, so this inherit, this use the Capgemini power ups spec flow binding, and this has been built on top of one of the Capgemini tool, based on top of EasyRepro, right? So along with these projects, when we are going to commit this change into Azure DevOps, we need a build pipeline and release setup in order to produce the build artifacts and to move the code to other environment. So it gives you the pipelines as well. In terms of pipeline, it gives you the template, the build, the build stage, where it is going to set the build version as per the Git, and it is going to compile all the project, and it is going to use the extracted customization from your solution, and it is going to pack and produce a managed solution here. And then it will run the unit testing, and it will copy all the artifacts, and it will publish the artifact into your Azure DevOps. Along with that, it is also important that to run the solution checker. The solution checker is another YAML pipeline. It uses the service connection to run it, and if there is any error, this will fail, but it will always publish the artifacts of the result. And in order to use this build YAML and the solution checker, we have the multi-stage pipeline setup. The one is the pull request. Whenever you are committing the code, and if you have a build validation setup for the pull request, so this will execute. This is not a trigger based again, and as you see, there are multi stages YAML pipeline. YAML file has been injected. The first one to run always the build stage, and the next one is the solution checker. And similarly, the Azure pipeline, this is the main pipeline which will run when the code get merged or your PR get completed. This is a trigger based one. Whenever you are including changes to your master, again, it runs the both, and it already defined what service connection it is going to use. Right, so this is the initial structure, and if you see, there are few errors. So very first thing, I'm going to use a command restore. This is going to restore all the packages used as part of this project. And the good thing is we provide all the various tasks using the nuke build, which I was talking about. We'll see one by one in action. So very first thing I want to use is the restore. It is going to restore all the package references. Okay, so now this has been run. It's build. Yeah, so error has gone. Right, so the code structure is there. Now let's move into the first subgenerator, which is Azure DevOps. We have to commit this change into Azure DevOps. So the initial repository can be committed, and all the necessary the build pipeline, release pipeline will set up with service connection. So I'll run another command, which is the same scope, Azure Capgemini UK, but this time the subgenerator is Azure DevOps. And this is going to also prompt various parameters, the PAT token of the Azure DevOps project. So it is asking for the URL, which URL you are going to use. Again, it remembers the last Azure DevOps URL. So I'm saying yes. And the PAT token, let me copy from my notepad. The people who don't know, maybe it's a quick one to just to show you. You can create your PAT token by going here, personal access token. Either you can give full access or you can give to any specific components of the Azure DevOps project which need access to. So automatically it shows me all the projects available in my Azure DevOps, and I'm going to use generator demo. Like, yeah, this is the one I'm going to use. I highlighted generator demo. And again, is asking for the client, the same, the package LM lab. Now it is asking the CI environment URL. So the CI is after you do your development and before taking to the test SIT, you want to have your continuous integration environment where you will be proving that your solutions are importable. You are able to run your, all the unit testing and the various other testing. So this is my CI URL. The service account email, this email address and password will be used for integration testing, because sometimes integration testing needs a higher privileged user which will connect to your Dataverse. But generally, in order to deploy your code into other, maybe you can use a service account. So for this, I will just giving a fake account because I'm not going to run as part of this demo, the integration test, and I'll give a fake password. For the service connection, I already created the the service principal and added the application user to the Dataverse. So it is asking that tenant ID. Yeah, this is the same tenant ID, the application ID. If it is not remembered, is you are using first time, then you can directly paste it here. So the same value I can copy, and I would say okay, this is my application ID. Now client secret. Now it is starting creating all the repos and putting an initial commit to Git. Done. Very quick. And if you see, it created all the pipelines, and it says in my DevOps organization already the Power Platform build tools were installed. This is where it skipped, and this RF viewer as well, and it created all the other setup. Exciting. Let's see in the DevOps project itself, right? So it has a repos now. If I go here, LM lab, this is the repos is pushed, and whatever code structure was there in our local, it created everything. It has SRCs, and mainly it brought these pipelines. Where is the pipelines? Under the pipelines, so it has the template pipeline and the main Azure pipeline and the pull request pipeline. That's good. Also, if you look into now the build pipelines, there will be two. One is for the pull request and another is for the main build pipeline. Yeah, ALM lab package build and the pull request. And if I just show you one of them, it uses exactly that YAML file which is there in the source code. Okay. And as you are seeing, this is using a service connection. That means we would expect that service connection should be created. Yeah, CIN environment ALM lab service connection has been created. I'll just authorize those two pipeline for this. I'll go to security. So already the user is added pipeline permission. I'll add both of them. Okay, good. Now if we look into the release pipeline, it has a release pipeline as well. And if we edit here, so it looks for the your repository and the master branch, and whenever there is a commit happened, it is automatically continuous deployment trigger has been set up. And if you look into your the task which is used under the release pipeline, it has the out-of-box Power Platform tool installer. Then, as I was saying, it has a deploy package because we are not just using one solution, another solution, and so it is a complete package. And there is already a package created under the deploy, the package deployer which I was talking about. The package template is again built based on another Capgemini package template, which provides the additional, the services. So that has been added here. And once you deploy the code, you want to test as well. So it has a step to use those integration username password. It sets the credential, then it run the integration test and run the UI test as well as part of the release. And as part of the build artifacts, it always run the unit test. Okay, so it now everything has been set up as we have seen. Now we are going to do a sorry, do leave. All right, so the Azure DevOps is done. So let's quickly do the solution. So you have everything is ready. Your local projects are ready. Solution is ready. And also I forgot to mention whatever client package and the client name and the package we provided, accordingly it created all the solutions and the folder namespace was been built based on that. Okay, so now it is time to generate the next sub generator, which is going to create the placeholder to in order for us to extract the solutions. So I'll be running now another command, which is again scope is Capgemini UK and it is Power Apps project and solution. This will prompt again few parameters. It's asking what is the publisher prefix. Okay, before I proceed to this, let me quickly show you. Whenever we run this, it is not going to create a solution automatically for you in your Dataverse. The solution in which you want to put into your source control based on your package, you have to create that manually. That's a manual step. So beforehand, I've created a project which name is PW.com LM lab and sample. So I'll be it is based on the same details what I'm going to provide in the generator. So the way you will be setting up, you provide your client and the project, the package and the publisher. Accordingly, you set your solution. But in order to just for the demo to run this fast, I've set up this solution in advance. So same publisher again, the client name, yeah, the package is fine. Yeah, sample package. Now it is asking the auth profile because in order to do various task execution in this code, the build task, we need a profile. So already I know the profile name of my dev environment, which is Dataverse dev. Now it is asking what is your development environment. Before we have given the URL for the CI to create the connection. Now we have to give the dev URL. So this is my dev URL. It is also asking for a staging. So generally we use staging actually means all the developer work in the dev environment to do their customization and everything. Then we take the changes into another extract, which we call as a staging. Then we extract the customization change from there in order not to disturb the dev work of the other developers. But if you have a single dev environment, it's absolutely fine. If I'll set yes now, it will ask me my staging URL. But if you don't have only dev, then you say no. Now it is going to start creating a CDS project, which will be used to generate the managed solution and unmanaged solution. And it will be using this prefix, the package and the solution name, etc. to create the folder and also to create the solution name. So it is going to add, update the previously created files. So it is going to override. I would say yes. Yes. Yeah, so that's all it's done. Now if you look into the SRC under the solutions, so this has been created pwcom ALM lab sample folder, and it has the extract mapping file, the pack mapping file, and also it has a CDS project, right, which we'll be using for producing the managed file and unmanaged file. It has a solution JSON which remembers the profile and the URL for your dev. And as I was mentioning, we are using Sparkle for various activities to deploy plugin script so that JSON file has been added, which you can extend. Right. So as I said, I already created the solution. So let's have a quick look into the solution. Very simple customization I've done. I just created one choice field for the contact entity. It's called so there is a global option set skills, and for the contact, I have used the same skills field where I use the global option set. And as a best practice, always you are going to add only the components which you have modified, not that everything. So it has a single table with one column, and there is nothing else, right? So this is what it has been created. Let me check the version. Yeah, that's okay. So let's assume developer has made the changes and you want to move this across into your other environment. And in this case, we are going to do to the CI. So what we'll be doing, the first thing is we'll be extracting those solution component to your local machine so that we can, commit the change into Azure DevOps, and we'll take through the whole life cycle. So let's run a task. As I was saying, we are using build task, nuke build to create the build task. So this is the project here, the folder build. And if you see, we have a build.cs, which is, and this task have been built using the nuke commands. So it has restore, compile, and extract solution, pack solution, you deploy plugin, deploy workflow. If you have to generate a model, then the model is also available. And in order to support this task, the VS Code task has also been set up here. It asks all the parameters, necessary parameters, and which will used to extract changes or deploy changes. So let's see this in action. I'm going to now run a command that extract the solution. What the extract will do, it will use the pack command to extract the managed version and unmanaged version of the solution, and it will unpack. It will unpack and store the XML file into a directory under the SRC. Now, if you see, SRC has common and the solution folder, but it doesn't have any extract folder, right? And if you look into the CDS project, we are saying here that the solution root path is extract. So it is going to extract the changes to this location. So let's try this now. So I'll run the command extract solution. So it is prompting what are the solutions, because you can have more than one solution as well. We are suggesting create all one solution, single solution, add all the necessary changes based on your package. If you have a different package, then you build another solution. Again, it's as per the project need, this can vary. Right. So it is going to run this new build task, and it is connected to the Dataverse to this particular environment using the profile bin setup. Now it is trying to export the managed version of the solution. If you see, it is a managed.zip, and also it will extract the unmanaged version, and finally it will unpack. Yeah, so this export has been succeeded. Now it is going to try the unmanaged version of the solution. Meantime, if it is extracting, let's have a look into extract command itself, what it does. Yeah, this is the extract solution. So it is preparing the path. It first extract into a temporary location here, and it extract the managed version of solution, then unmanaged version of solution using the pack, and using the solution packager, it unpack all these solution components. Yeah, so it says now the extraction is complete. And if you go to now the solution folder, see, we have the extract, we have the customization, solution XML with all the details about the solution, and moreover, we had only one single entity, which is contact, and it was having one column, the skills column, and it has a global option set. So everything has been extracted. Right, so this has been extracted now, and before you commit this change and move to Azure DevOps, if you want to verify this in locally, so you can again use various command. Like if you want to do a pack, let me show you the folder location where it runs, where it is going to. So this is the folder structure. If I'm going to use the pack command under the src solution, you see there is no bin or obj, but if I run the pack command now, it is going to produce, it will ask which version of solution you want to generate, managed version, unmanaged version. So you can generate both and use appropriately, but for the release pipeline, it is always going to generate the managed version of solution. So let's say pack solution, and it is asking, okay, what is your solution name? It takes from the parameter, and it is asking managed or unmanaged. If I'll say managed version, it is going to create a managed version of solution. Under that, it's completed. Now if you go to bin release, so it has produced your solution file. Right. Yeah, and as I said, uh, the Azure DevOps build pipeline is using one of the YAML file, which has been defined under the pipelines. This pipeline in order to produce the build artifacts. So before you take into the Azure DevOps, you can produce your build artifacts locally, which is very good thing, right? So you know if, because your package can have more than one solution, it can have other component like data. So that is also you can produce locally. And in order to do that, and you can confirm that yeah, your package is produced correctly or not. So using the package deployer, it is going to create another folder under the deploy bin. So there is no release folder now. We are going to run this as a managed version so that it is going to produce the managed package. So I'll run the command and I'll say compile. This compile command is going to build the managed and unmanaged package deployer package. I'll say managed. Done. And you see it's a package folder, which is a import config XML. The import config XML is when we generated the solution, it automatically adds the details into the import config file. So this is our solution, and what are the parameters: force update, upgrade or override customization. You can define the details as per the package deployer configurations, and this is the sequence of the solution. If you have more than one solution, that can be imported. So it produces that. It has the config file, it has the solution itself, and if you have other data, it will create the necessary folder here, right? So actually I forgot to create a local branch before doing this because it will not allow me to uh, commit directly into the master. So what I'm going to do is another 7 minutes we have. Let me quickly set a branch policies for the repos. And I'll create a local branch and post just to quickly show you, because I want to run the pull request validation. Yeah, these are the things I'm not going to set now. You must have all the setups. Just this one I will say is squash merge, and mainly in the build validation I will add the pull request one. It's going to be automatic immediately. Yeah, save. So the policy is set now. Yeah, okay. So let me quickly create a branch out of this. I would, yeah, generally this is the practice you will follow, right? Once your main code is pushed, always you will be creating a local branch. Create television, let's say. Okay. Now any name should work. So this is my local branch, and let's commit this change. I would say, yeah. So we always use the conventional commit message, and if you see, look into the documentation also, there is a contributor MD file. It gives you all the instruction how you can use this tool, and what are the different tasks it is using, and how you create your local branch before you start making any changes. So it has given all the necessary instruction for you, right? So it is important always you use the conventional commit uh, process. So I'm going to use, and as per this message, either it is a fix or a fit, it is going to set the build version for you. So okay, so I'll publish the change now. Let's go into the repos. So we have this branch. I'll create a pull request. So generally, as a practice, whenever you create a pull request, this will go to your reviewer, and the reviewer will review all the changes, what you have committed, and put comments, suggest the change, or if everything is fine, it will just approve it, right? So we'll follow that process. For now, I've just created to see uh, the build pipeline as part of the pull request and the solution checker, how it runs. So as I have set a policy to run the pull request build, so it started this one, and this is a multi-stage. First, it is starting the build. Yeah, so this is going to take a bit of time. Uh, Maybe between within 2 minutes all these build will finish. Then after the pull request get finished, we have to complete the pull request, which will run the build artifact, which will run the another package, build package, which will run unit testing and produce the artifacts, and finally the release pipeline will trigger. I think it's already time now. So Raj, if there is any question now, then we can answer them.
Thank you very much, Satya. Okay, let's take a look at the questions, if there are any questions. No questions. Just a really cool comment from Philip. But there are no questions. I think people were just interested in your process, to be honest. Your development and deployment process. It is very slick, I have to admit. It's very, very clean and slick, doing everything in one place. So it really does streamline the development process. It helps developers not have to jump around and click around in different places. Um, so I have, yeah, that's really nice. Really, really good to see that you've implemented that very, very well. And thanks for sharing that as well. This is something that Capgemini is sharing with the community, right?
Yes, so it is a group of people and Capgemini is sharing, and I'm just a contributor to the GitHub project. Uh, and yeah, we as a team build this one, so it is now available in community for everyone use. So happy everyone start using. If you have any issues, you can directly open in the GitHub itself, or you can reach out anytime. We'll be happy to help. Having said that, still there are open issues because we are using in our project. It's not small project, enterprise project also been used this, and we are solving. We are keep improving this. So if you will start contributing and using it, even it will make better this tool.
So I do have a question, and that is, where are the main gaps for developers at the moment with this with this scaffolding project? Are there any glaring gaps that you can see that for certain types of development requirements? I'm just trying to think off the top of my head of certain things that you'd probably want to do.
Well,
As, yeah.
yeah, I think still one thing we are a bit of still thinking how do we can improve when you're multiple developer working in your user stories and feature, and in order to some of the developer changes is not been completed yet, and another developer changes you want to move to another environment, so we brought that extract environment in between, but still there is a bit of queuing actually, because you put into your extract, then if you are extracting your changes, another developer have to wait still. I think around that part still there is a bit of we need to improve this process. Certainly means we have to think about how can be improved in a collaborative way that it will work smoothly. Other than that, I think it covers all the basics. Once the project is set by the project admin, it covers all the best practice. It has all the code analyzers, everything set up, so you can't skip any best practices.
Great. And from a from a actual solution packaging perspective, one of the problems that is that used to occur in the past a lot was the process of merging the solutions changes, right? Um, so from a project perspective, it might not be directly related to this specific scaffolding, but I'd be keen to understand if that's something that you encounter still, where you're merging solution changes, metadata changes from various different developers. I know you mentioned it's one of the gaps, which will impact everyone. But What types of challenges have you faced lately when it comes to merging metadata customizations
Yeah.
as part of a deployment?
Yeah. So generally, developer forget to extract the solution. So they develop they build a plugin locally, they deploy to your Dataverse dev environment, but they forget to extract into the solution itself, and they commit. So that time the build fails, and it blocks the other developer to move their changes. And the other good thing is the solution checker is already there, but the other challenge we are facing, if the unit test, if they are not locally running any of these testing, and it is failing on the Azure DevOps level, and due to that, again, due to that failure, the other changes are in the queue. um, Means, to be honest, means with a kind of a collaborative way, what action and what story we're working on, and putting that message across, it's smooth. Actually, it's not that complex as before. uh, I remember in earlier days there are a lot of dependencies issues. People forget to add the required components, then this solution import will fail. But I think most of these are covered as part of that build. It checks the dependencies, and it throws out if all the components are not been added. So some extent it covers, but still it's the people have to be attentive to ensure all the required components are added before they raise the pull request.